Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at CoreWeave and it is time for another update. On this chart we have been tracking this 5-wave move to the upside in a wave 1, 2, 3, 4 and the 5 that completed the larger wave 1, and we were tracking the correction in wave 2 ever since I started covering this chart somewhere around this area in the time frame and in the correction, because specifically we were tracking a wave 2 following a wave 1 that completed here. And I have to say, this chart actually played out very beautifully so far. We reached a decent level in a first A wave to the downside after starting a correction in a wave B. We expected continuation and a reaction and a reversal somewhere in the resistance area between these levels at $127.7 up to around $164. We had our even most significant levels that created this resulting C wave that followed to the downside in a nice 5-wave move, and we reached our support zone that starts at $97 and expands down to $48.5. Now, in the previous video, I did also mention the possibility that this wave 2 could extend even lower, and we didn't actually follow that through yet. And I would even go as far as saying that right now, this idea of still being in this wave 4 and still forming a 5th wave to the downside has become quite unlikely due to the scale of how far away this wave 4 actually pushed. So even though we didn't technically break the resistance zone for a wave 4 in yellow, I just find that quite unlikely at the moment, so I'm not going to focus on that scenario anymore. And I am, as I was in the previous video as well, very open to the idea that this wave 2 is complete, since we did actually form a 5-wave move to the downside and we did reach our support zone overall. And that allows us to be looking already for the large third wave that should follow, and an ideal target for that supposed third wave. Now, I'm not giving a time frame for this, but an ideal target in the long time frame is actually at around $900. And yeah, that depends a little on how well I drew this, but it's a rough estimate for a third wave at the 138.2% extension being the ideal target. Now, the way this develops could take a lot of time, years, maybe even decades, to actually form this movement. Decades may be a bit long in the case of this one too, and how quick it developed, but you get the point. Now, that doesn't mean the fact that I don't consider this yellow interpretation probable. That doesn't mean we cannot still extend lower in this wave 2. So two things could actually happen that would allow us to reach an even lower level in this support zone in white. And one of them being that, okay, this is, instead of being the entire wave C, this could have been the wave 1 to the downside, and we could be going now up in a wave 2, and then we would be looking for a third, fourth, and the fifth to take us even lower within the support zone and still allow us to actually create the reaction to the upside in the third wave afterwards. So that is one of the possibilities, and I am actually going to mark that on the chart. Yeah, let's use the orange interpretation for this and track this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would expect in this case for the probabilities to still hold high, to find a reaction within this resistance area in orange between $105.5 up to around $132 at the 78.6% retracement. And then another possibility for which we could still be tracking lower movements would be the idea that, okay, this completed as an A, B, C, all good, but in fact this would be instead a larger A wave that developed. We would still be looking for a wave B here in this updated resistance zone, since we no longer need the previous one, and then we would follow still to the downside in a wave C that would take us still lower, most likely, in the support zone the large support zone for wave 2 between $97 down to around $48.5. With that said, I am going to mark this as the yellow scenario, where I am looking for an ABC pattern to develop. And while those are possibilities that we are tracking, we of course must track the very realistic possibility that we actually bottomed here. And while I didn't like the structure that developed in this area too much previously, I have to say it is starting to become something that could turn a lot more bullish. Now, the structure doesn't provide us a wave count, a good wave count to follow. I could say that this is a wave 1 in an ABC, and then this is an A wave within a larger third wave. So so far we'd have a 1, 2, and then in this third wave, either started here or here, it doesn't really matter. A wave, B wave, and then a C wave to push us even higher. And then we would have a 1, 2, 3, and then we would be looking for a 4th and a 5th, and have our first mini 1, 2 setup to follow. And in fact, we did even reach, after pushing higher here, the support zone again in white for the large wave 2, and that actually provided support once again as it did previously here, and created a pretty decent reaction that I would assume, considering that this is an ABC that is developing. Now, it depends the exact target a little on where I start the count for this A wave, but I would be looking for, let me move this a little because I can't see, but I would be looking for the 100% extension for a C wave ideal target in this case. And yeah, let's even track this and use the white interpretation for this idea to develop. And there is actually a support zone I can provide in this case for a wave B to hold. That would be between $99 down to around $93.3. Now that again, it's a rough estimate. It depends on where I count the beginning of this wave A, and I cannot guarantee that it is one or the other, but they're overall very similar. Now, this is it for this video. These are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover. And I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.